Good morning, everybody. Just getting everything set up here. Welcome. Happy Thursday. Welcome to our class on the Realtor Advanced tools using Infosparks and Faststats to be the market expert. We'll just wait a minute or two. Just real quickly, we are recording today's session, so everybody attending today's webinar will get a copy of today's session. If you have any questions, please feel free to write it in the chat box or write in the Q&A box. I will be monitoring that for everybody. I do tend to talk a little quickly, so I apologize for that. But again, if I do go over something too quickly, please feel free to write in the chat box. I'll read back your question and then answer it, and then we can progress on. So hopefully everybody's having a great morning. Can everybody hear me okay? Welcome, Catherine, Loanne, Mo, Edward, Janice, and Drake. Oh, and YC. Excellent. Thank you very much, Janice. We'll wait a minute or two before we get started. I know a lot of people are probably getting done with broker preview. They're probably getting all the cobwebs shaken out, just starting the day. And of course, realtor time, people tend to be a couple of minutes behind, just trying to get settled in. And like I said, I'll wait another minute or two before we get started. Do you guys have any questions so far? Or how's your day going? It's good so far. Excellent, Janice. Awesome. It's a beautiful Thursday. It's bright and sunny, nice and cool as well. So hopefully we're finally entering into our fall/winter weather. So that'll be great. All right, well, it's 3 minutes after 10:30, so I want to respect everybody's time for being on time. Thank you again for very much. Again, welcome to our webinar today, using Infosparks and Faststats to become the market expert. I am your host, Anthony. I work here at Orange County Realtors, been here now officially 19 years, started off in the MLS department. Guaranteed I'll speak to all of you regarding rules, regulations, violations, all that fun stuff. What I'm also involved with is our outreach program. Our outreach program is typically designed to give you training on all your tools and products. So basically, not only do I personally train on the MLS, how to run searches, how to modify listings, create CMAs, all that fun stuff. I also train on zip forms. I'm a zip form certified trainer. So I can show you how to put together your transactions electronically, how to digitally sign them, and of course, all the advanced tools that zip forms has to offer. And of course, I love training on tech. Love showing agents how they can utilize their technology tools like their tablets, mobile devices to better their real estate lives, and hopefully help you go paperless in your business. Maybe not get rid of it fully, but maybe get rid of enough of it to make your lives a lot easier. So I love showing you all these tools and things like that that you can utilize that will help elevate your career. And that's where OC Faststats and Infosparks kicks in. Now we have a quick little presentation to go over, and then I'll show you, how to actually access these stats that you can use. Now you may be asking yourself, well, what is Infosparks or Faststats? Well, put simply, Infosparks and Faststats is an OC Realtors member benefit, as well as an MLS member benefit that provides MLS statistical data that members such as yourselves can use to show the market realities. Now, what's really neat about the Infosparks and Faststats is that it uses purely 100% MLS data. So there's no other data that's used or implemented to throw these stats off. This is 100% pure CRMLS data. This is one of the many reasons why we have such stringent and strict rules on making sure that the data in the MLS is accurate to the best of everyone's knowledge. Okay. Now, by the way, the data that we're going to look at today, hopefully, will be October's data. So typically the information is updated every month for the prior month worth of information. So it's usually updated around the 3rd to the 7th of the month, so that we can see the data for the previous month and beyond. Okay. Now, one thing that you're probably going to ask yourself is like, how accurate are the public websites? Because really, why should we use statistical data? Well, we want to show all these accuracies or estimations that are close to accurate when is possible, right? And a lot of times we have these consumers out there that go to these third-party websites and they say, oh, third-party websites says that my home is worth X. And does that really hold up? So you have to ask yourself, how accurate are these public websites? Because I can guarantee you that the consumers out there aren't asking. And funny enough, these websites display how accurate, or what I like to think as inaccurate, as their information is. So this is what's known, or this is what is known about these estimations. So here as an example, in the Long Beach, Anaheim, Orange County area, to be within 5% of the list price, they're accurate about 83% of the time. That means that they're more than 15% off in their estimated value to be within 5% of a sales price. Now, to be 20% of a sales price, they're about 99.5% accurate. Now, you may go, well, geez, Tony, is that that doesn't seem like a lot. Well, think about it. 20% one way and 20% a different way, right? Or the opposite way. That's now a 40% gap. So when these websites say your home's estimated at maybe $1 million, plus or minus 20%, that's a $400,000 gap in a home estimated value. Now, by the way, that's for a sale. If you're talking about on market, or I'm sorry, that's for estimating a property for being active, all right, to sell. Now, to be off market around the close price, to be within 20% of the sales price, they are 91.9% accurate. So they're still off by almost 10% in their home sale close price estimation to be plus or minus 20%. Now, when we think about that $400,000 gap, does anybody here want to play around with their largest owned assets value by $400,000 plus or minus, even at $200,000 plus or minus? Probably not, right? Because that could affect what type of home you're getting into next. This is why they need to listen to you as the real estate expert, because you have access to the most accurate information at all times. With statistical data from Infosparks or Faststats, you can actually show, as well as with your CMAs. And by the way, for a CMA, comparative market analysis, you want to actually show these market realities, because you want to show what people are actually listing their homes for that are darn near model match to the subject property. You want to show how fast they're getting into escrow based on the current list price. And again, based on the model match. And of course, what people are actually closing escrow for. So if anything, this is the time where you as the real estate agent can show consumers your value. Because when they go to the internet and they don't take the time to actually research this, they could be leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table. Anybody here like that? Anybody here just want to trust those third-party websites now? Probably not. Now, this is how Infosparks is going to help you in Faststats. Using statistical data is going to actually help you elevate your online presence. We're going to help you increase your credibility as a real estate professional, as well as a real estate agent, because you're going to, again, tie yourself into the market. You're going to end up having better client interactions, both with your buyers and your potential sellers. And of course, you're going to be able to manage those expectations. So we're going to touch on all that today real quick. Now, how do you elevate your online presence, or even just your presence as being a real estate agent? Well, we encourage you to distribute out this information. Transparency is everything, right? It shows availability. What you do is you take this information, you hand it out to people, right? Distribute this information constantly. Push those stats on your social media platforms. Put it on your website. Do a blog about it. Do a video about it. Hand it out at an open house. Anybody here have social media? And you can raise your hand real quick. No one here? One person, Loanne? And Loanne, oh, good. YC. Does anybody know that you're not in the real estate industry on social media? Like, you never ever talk about it? No? Maybe? Okay. Not enough? Usually happens, right? If you don't talk about what's going on in real estate because no one knows that you're in real estate, how do you ever expect to get business? If you're afraid to talk to people on the street, afraid to door knock, afraid to do open houses, afraid to post things on your Facebook business page about your real estate industry, how do you ever expect to get business? This is one of those tools that we are going to encourage you to hand out and give out. Now, I know a lot of people really get scared when it comes to talking about statistical information, because when we think about that, we go, oh, geez, I need to be this guru, financial guru. Not at all. Not at all. By the way, you can apply your branding or your logos to these reports, either via PDF or in the electronic format of the document. You can promote the property stats of the area. Now, what's interesting with Faststats is that you have what they call the local market update report, which is a beautiful one-page report displaying all the stats. Or if you want to really dive down into trends, then you have a 15-page beautiful report called the monthly indicator report. And again, you can use this via digital or print versions. Put these reports on your websites or your personal website, your social media platforms. Hand it out at the open house. Have it attached or available on the back side of your property flyer for people to pick up. Now, handing out information is going to increase your credibility, right? You're going to be able to position yourself as the market expert by including statistical data in all of your marketing materials, whether it's online or print. With the use of empirical data or evidence, it will complement your experience with your clients or even your potential clients. And by the way, we give you the data. You interpret it however you see fit. You do not need to be a financial guru. As a matter of fact, everybody here today will look at these stats a tad bit differently. Some of you will look at these stats and see positive results or information. Others of you will look at it and look at it in a negative situation. It just depends on the type of clientele you are attracting in your business. And by the way, you don't have to know all the stats. Just one stat alone can make you the market expert. So get to know that stat. Look at it, own it, talk about it. People will gravitate to you as the market expert just based on that one stat. Remember, you're the expert. right? How can you be the expert? Well, you're going to start using these stats to answer all the popular questions. Is it a buyer or seller's market? Maybe you look at the stat of month supply of inventory. How do property types compare? Maybe because you're Orange County, go with the attached versus the detached property types. Because as we all know here in Orange County, we can have a condo attached and a condo detached unit, and a single family attached and a single family detached unit. Usually single family attached and condo attached are around the same price point, just like a condo detached and a single family detached are around the same price point. By the way, are home prices going up or down? Well, look at median sales price. How long will it take to sell your house? Days on market. How much of your asking price are you going to get? Well, that's a percentage of the original list price being received or percentage of list price being received. And of course, when do I have the most options as a buyer? Well, you look at the inventory. How many of you have been asked at least one of these questions, if not all of these questions? Has anybody ever been able to answer all these questions confidently? Well, using stats is going to help you with that. Now, managing expectations will come in line, right? Because you're going to be able to manage the client interactions, right? With using various metrics like the days on market, median sales price, percentage of original list price being received, inventory, so on and so forth. You're going to be able to impress clients at listing appointments with the market realities. Again, usually a client, when they get you to come in to do a CMA or even talk about a buyer's appointment and they want to sit down with you, they've already gone online, looked at these third-party websites, and they already have a price in mind, not realizing that these estimations are off by how much they're off by. These market numbers just don't lie. This is what's actually going on. You're going to be able to provide a client, whether they're a buyer or a seller, with the necessary education and information to help them empower themselves to make a well data-driven decision when it comes to buying and selling homes. Now, the benefits obviously are going to be enhancing your negotiating power. You'll be amazed that if you know certain things over another agent, that you're in a stronger position to negotiate a better offer or a better price, maybe even with your clients, right? How many of you have ever, let the client or let the other agent be in the driver's seat when it comes to dictating the price? Wouldn't it be nice to have known what was going on in the area to help you feel stronger and more confident to be able to feel stronger in negotiating a better deal? Or maybe some of you here today use numbers to help you strengthen and prove that negotiated deal, either with that potential seller, potential buyer, or even on the other side of the transaction. Now, by the way, using statistical data, you're going to be able to connect with those analytical clients. How many of you have an analytical client right now? Somebody who just loves looking at numbers and they question you on every little number that's out there, what's going on in the market. Anybody? Maybe one or two of you. Well, here you go. Using statistical data, you can hand them the stats and let them look at it, and they will love you for it. Now, by the way, stats are also going to help guide those emotional decision makers, right? Because the numbers don't lie. This is what's actually going on. We shouldn't be so upset with what's going on right now. We shouldn't be, so anxious. This is what we need to think about to be able to strategize. Ultimately, this is going to reduce everybody's anxiety, not just your clients, but yours. Because I know everybody here today takes on your clients' emotions, right? How many of you never get a full night's sleep because you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about your clients, thinking about, geez, why haven't they been getting their offers accepted? Why haven't they been getting any offers on the property that I've just listed? Anybody ever have that? Right? Well, here with the numbers, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, reason why we haven't gotten into escrow in 5 days is this. It's usually going to take about 14, 15 days to get into escrow. So you're jumping the gun a little bit. Why don't we wait? If we're going over beyond this, then we need to worry about this. But for now, just hang tight. Hey, buyer, reason why your offers aren't getting accepted is that you keep lowballing all the offers when sellers are getting this. These are things to think about. By the way, are there any questions so far? Edward asks, I know a couple who recently sold their home for a for sale by owner, currently in escrow. Does this info go into CRMLS? No, because usually for sale by owners are not listed with a listing agent, so it's not under contract. If it's not under contract, it can't go in the MLS. Does that help, Edward? Excellent. So this is why we want to encourage people to list with listing agents and get their properties and contracts, because, you know, statistically, you know, for sale by owners usually get about 30 to 40% less of their asking price versus a real estate agent who usually can get them about 10 to 15% more than they're asking because of everything that you can do and market. Just so you know, I think that's an NAR stat, by the way. By the way, anybody know the difference between a seller's market, buyer's market, and a balanced market? I'm going to leave that real quick. Anybody? Nobody knows the difference between a seller's market, buyer's market, or a balanced market? Janice? What is it? The speed of the market, days to sell? Maybe, Edward, not necessarily. It does. That is a result of a buyer's or seller's market. YC, excellent. Supply and demand. Economics 101, supply and demand for any product. Well, guess what? The product is homes. Now, a seller's market, typically, for those of you who don't know, seller's market is when you have very low inventory, but a high demand, where homes go off the market so quickly that you can't replenish inventory fast enough, which now all of a sudden results in what? High spikes and high prices, because you just can't meet the demand of the consumer. Now, funny enough, in the United States, a seller's market is considered anything less than 5 months worth of inventory. Now, funny enough, we're Orange County here in California, where we actually have a microclimate of our markets. And funny enough, on that note, usually what happens here in Orange County dictates to what happens to the rest of the state. And then, of course, eventually out to the rest of the country. Because usually things happen here first, and then it trickles out everywhere else. Now, in Orange County, a seller's market is less than 5 months worth of inventory, or I'm sorry, less than 3 months worth of inventory versus the nation at 5 months. Now, a buyer's market is when you have more inventory than demand. So you're not getting properties off the market at all very quickly. They sit on the market longer, right? Because there's just not enough demand to take that property or those properties off the market. So now what happens? You then all of a sudden have these deep drops in home pricing. So a seller's market, steep increases. Buyer's market, steep decreases. Now, in a buyer's market here in the United States, it's anything more than 6 months worth of inventory. In Orange County, it's more than 4 months. A balanced market, which is something ideal for everyone because a lot of agents like to see this. A balanced market is when you have enough supply that meets enough demand that information is coming or properties are coming on and off the market at a steady pace, which now means that home prices should hopefully steadily increase over time. Now, a balanced market in the United States is between 5 to 6 months worth of inventory. In Orange County, this is between 3 and 4 months. So we're going to be able to look at these stats to determine what type of market and back up what type of market we're in, depending on the city, the area that we're marketing in. But that was really great, YC, on that answer. Supply and demand, that's all that is. Yes. Seller's market, less time on the market, days on market are really low. Buyer's market, longer time on the market, days on market tend to be way longer, probably 60 plus days. A balanced market, things are going off at a steady pace, probably a 30 to 45 day period of days on market. Now we're going to be able to support your recommendations by basically comparing local to regional numbers. So this is how I like to use the Faststats and Infosparks. Use it in your CMA, right? Your CMAs, comparative market analysis, is typically how this home stacks up to the other homes like it in the exact neighborhood or in that neighborhood. But now with stats like Infosparks, you can now take that home and see how it stacks up to, say, the rest of the area within the city that that home resides in. And of course, we can see how that home stacks up to the rest of the city. And then, of course, how this home stacks up to the county. So now we've got this ripple style effect to see if people are living in more expensive neighborhoods or more affordable neighborhoods compared to the rest of the area that they're in. Now, this is also going to help you dive deeper into your niche markets by displaying and emphasizing stats to your target market. And again, some of you will see negative, some of you will see positive, some of you will be able to talk to certain people certain ways about certain things that concern you, because the things that concern you will concern your particular clients. Like attracts like. Some of you will focus on sales price. Others of you will focus on inventory. Others of you will combine stats together. Answer all those emotional points of pricing and forecasting, because honestly, the trend is your friend. You're going to be able to look at these stats and show them not only a yearly trend, but a monthly trend, going back close to 20 years in some cases. Hey, this is normal. Look at the past 20 years, how the inventory has gone up and down through every year. This is how home prices are. Things like that. Now, your personal marketing, you're going to be able to support your business and yourself. Compare yourself to the rest of the market averages. Maybe here, Drake, being a listing agent or what have you, going to a listing appointment, knows that he can sell a property in less than 15 days. Whereas the rest of the MLS or agents in Orange County, it takes them 30 to 40 days. So now he can say, this is what I do for my clients. I can get you into escrow faster based on my marketing plan. By the way, be innovative with these stats, right? What I mean by being innovative, when you're distributing them, come up with interesting ways to talk about statistical data. Stats do not need to be boring. Put it in a video, do an infographic, something. Make it stand out. This is going to help you produce your own content. Even though we're giving you content to talk about, this is going to help you talk about things in different ways that now make it your own. And by the way, know your stuff because it's going to show. If you hand out stats at an open house and somebody asks you a question about one of those stats and the first words out of your mouth is, I'm not sure, that shoots your credibility in the foot. Everything you've been doing is down the drain. Before you hand out anything, at least familiarize yourself with at least that one stat or a couple of the stats, because you will be asked questions about it. And don't be afraid to answer. Now, as you hand out this information, you're creating an influential reputation online and out there in the public. As you talk about this information on a regular basis, because it has to be consistent, you'll all of a sudden start to develop this influential reputation for being the agent that knows their market, that knows their stuff. And again, the benefits, it's going to help you strengthen your negotiating power with all of your clients and amongst your colleagues here in the real estate world. And you're going to ultimately own the segments in your local areas. Own it. It's okay. And this is how we're going to claim it. We know our stuff. We know what we're talking about. People now come to us as a trusted source of data because of the things that we know about and aren't afraid to talk about. All right, at this point, I've bored you enough with the presentation. So how do we access the Faststats and Infosparks? Well, we're going to first start off with the Infosparks. By the way, are there any questions? No questions? Okay. So how do I access Infosparks? First place that we're going to go is we're going to log into the MLS. Infosparks is a CRMLS / Orange County Realtors member benefit. So how do we access this benefit? What we're first going to do is we're going to log into the MLS, and from here, we can access Infosparks in one of two ways. Either from the home screen at the external links widget. From the external links widget, we can come down below and click on where it says Infosparks Market Statistics here, or we can go to the links tab at the very top of the screen here. And when we click on the links tab, this now shows us and displays to us all of our third-party member benefits offered to us by CRMLS and Orange County Realtors. We're going to scroll down on this list, and we're then going to click on Infosparks. Now, when we click on Infosparks initially, Infosparks is going to open up, and we're going to see some really interesting data right out of the gate. Number one, we're looking at the entire CRMLS database. And we see here that in the entire MLS database, we see over here towards the right-hand side of the screen that the median sales price, which is the stat that we're currently looking at, which is our default, that the MLS median sales price for all properties in the entire MLS is $735,000, up 14% compared to a year ago of October. Now, I know what you're saying right out of the gate. Whoa, 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 Tony. There is no way that median sales price for properties, at least here in Orange County, is that low. You're right. Remember, we're looking at the entire MLS database, right? We're looking at not just Orange County properties, but we're looking at Riverside, San Bernardino, Palm Springs, Palm Desert, San Diego, LA, Ventura, Fresno, Sacramento, all these databases that share their data with CRMLS. More than 200,000 plus listings going back, in this case, 5, 6, 7 years. So we need to narrow this down. How do we do that? First, we're going to switch it. How we're going to switch it, maybe to Orange County. We're going to come over here towards the top left where it says entire MLS. We're going to see a little drop down arrow here. We're going to click on the drop down arrow. From here, we get a list of choices. We're going to come down below. We can look at information by city. by county, by zip code, by the MLS area, by even our personal offices. So if you're a broker, you can see how well your office is doing or stats pertaining to your office. But in this case, maybe I'm going to select the county. When I select the county, we now get a list of counties here in the state of California, some of which data share with CRMLS. Simply, while your cursor is blinking, after I select county, just type in Orange. From here, with the list now narrows down, and we can select Orange County. Now we see here that Orange County, the median sales price is $910,000, up again 15.2% compared to a year ago. Now that still seems kind of low. Well, now we can remember how I was saying we're looking at maybe we want to show the differences between attached and detached, right? Well, this is where we can apply filters underneath that choice. So in this case, maybe I want to just look at the detached properties. So we now see here that detached properties in Orange County, the median sales price is $1,125,000, up 21.6% compared to a year ago. Now that's kind of amazing. Now, by the way, does anybody know the difference between median and average? And why would I want to look at median over average? Would probably be the best answer. Jenna says not sure. Real easy, Jenna. The difference between median and average is this. Average says takes the sum of everything and then divides that sum by the number posted. So like as an example, if we were to take everybody attending today and say, what is the average income of everyone in this room? Well, we've got 8 to 10 people in here, all of us at various different incomes. So what we would do is we would add up all of our individual incomes and then divide it by the number 10 because of the number of people. Now, in a case that maybe there was an extreme high income or an extreme low, like as an example, what happens if one of the attendees was, say, Bill Gates? And Bill Gates's average income or yearly income is what, $34 billion? Well, if we add his income to say with everybody else's and then divide it by 10, we're now all of a sudden looking at what, $1 billion per person easily, or probably 2 billion. Whereas the median says take those 10 sales, or in this case, those 10 people, and exclude out the extreme high and the extreme low and go for the exact middle or darn near middle. That's why it's usually always better to take the median, because what you're trying to do is find that middle ground. Exclude out the extreme high sales or the extreme low sales and go for the exact middle out of all the sales. So this is what kind of the nice thing here. Now we see here that we are up 26 or 21.6% compared to a year ago. What I can do is move my mouse over to this line graph and I can see what the previous month was. So we see here that in October, we are at 1.125. In September, we are at 1.1. August, 1.105. 1.138. If we move our mouse all the way back to October of 2020, the median sales price last year was $925. So, hey, homeowners, if you bought your home last year, guess what? You have $200,000 plus in equity that you've gained in just 1 year's time. If we look here and we go back to October of 2016, just a mere 5 years ago, if you bought your home 5 years ago, you probably bought it for around $752, depending on the neighborhood you bought in, and today's home price is at 1.125, you've gained almost $400,000 in equity in just 5 years. Is that crazy? Anybody buy back in 2016? Are you happy to know that you probably have gained a value of more than 21% or more than 400,000 in your home's equity? Kind of nice, huh? No wonder big tech wants to get into buying homes. There's a lot of money to be made. Now, by the way, this is just looking at the county. If you want, you can now narrow it down to the city. Click on the down arrow. You could then select the city, type in the city. Whoops. So Orange County, 1.125. Here in Irvine, 1.355, up 20%. Now, crazy enough, it looks like here from month to month, it looks like it dropped from 1.4 down to 1.3. Dropped $50,000. Now, how many of you market in multiple cities? Well, what we can now do with Infosparks is compare cities to cities, because I know how it is. All of you attending today probably are marketing in different cities. Here we can show how city types compare or city pricing compares. So here we've got Irvine. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to come over to the right of Irvine, click on add an area, and now I can type in my next city, like, oh, I don't know, Lake Forest. And maybe another city, Mission Viejo. And maybe another city, Costa Mesa. I can compare up to 4 things side by side, or 4 cities, or 4 counties, or mix and match. Here, Detach market. Costa Mesa, 1.2, up 18%, almost 19%. Mission Viejo, median sales price, 1.025, up 17.1%. Lake Forest, 1,055,000, up 22%. Irvine, up 20% at 1.355. Kind of interesting. So maybe marketing here, hey, if you sell your home in Irvine, you're probably going to get around 1.355, depending on what's going on. But if you were thinking about moving to Lake Forest or Mission Viejo, it's a little bit more affordable. So you got a little bit more money in your pocket from the sale. Maybe that home that you sell outright that you have no loan on, you can now buy a property all cash and still have money left over for your reno. By the way, you don't have to compare cities to cities. You can compare cities and the areas as well. So let's see here, Turtle Rock. And we're looking at the Turtle Rock area. And maybe we also see how, I don't know, let's see, Woodbury. So if you know the areas and you're marketing those areas of the city that you're marketing in, you can now compare those and see how they stack up. We see here in Turtle Rock, if you live in Turtle Rock, you're at 2.989, up almost 50% compared to a year ago. So if you live in Turtle Rock, you live in probably one of the most expensive areas out of the entire city of Irvine. Maybe you're thinking about moving from Turtle Rock to Woodbury. or somewhere else that you can now have gained in a year 50% of your, or gain 15% or 50% of equity in just 1 year. Anybody have any questions on this so far? Now, by the way, we're just looking at the median sales price stat. Remember how I said you just need to know at least one stat? Well, wait a minute. Down below here, we have multiple different stats. We can look at new listings coming on the market in October. Here in Irvine, we had 120 properties come on the market, a negative 18.9% in new inventory coming on the market. And if you look here on that line graph, even just in June, you had 220 properties. So you have 100 or less properties right now than you did June, July, August, September, 4, maybe 5 months ago. Now, compared to a year ago, you had 148. So you're only 28 listings less in the city compared to a year ago. But we notice here that in December, you started off with 98 properties. And it looks like it's on a downtrend because we're headed to what? The tail end of the year. Here we see Turtle Rock with only 4 properties that came on the market, a negative 60%. But yet here in Woodbury, people have listed their homes 6, up 20%. So it looks like people are moving out of Woodbury. Now, active inventories. We see here that actively, there's only 141 properties in all of Irvine as of October, a negative 63.7% of detached properties up for sale. Only 10 properties of that 141 are in Turtle Rock, which is in that area is down 41%, and only 4 properties in Woodbury, which is down 66, almost 67%. Here again, we can look at all these stats and look at things differently, like the closed sales. People getting into escrow successfully. So we see here that Turtle Rock really didn't get anybody in the month of October to get into escrow. So it's a drop from 100% to a year ago, which means that they probably only had what? 1 sale from a year ago. Oh, actually, they had 8 sales a year ago to none this year or in the month of October. Why? Well, property's at $3 million. Who's got that lying around? Right? Here, Edward, you had asked about days on market. Well, to get $1.3 million, it's going to take you 7 days to get into escrow. By the way, that's 70% less, almost 71% faster than it was a year ago. So if we look at that number, October, it took people 24 days to get into escrow. Today, it only takes you 7. And again, looking at that median sales price, right? A year ago at 1.129. So it took people 24 days to get into escrow at 1.29. Today, it takes you 7 days at 1.25 or 1.355. Now, here's an interesting stat, and we can, by the way, get rid of these 2 areas. Percentage of last list price and percentage of original list price being received. Now, these are great for sellers and buyers, these particular 2 stats. Now, the difference between these 2 particular stats is this. Percentage of original list price being received says, how much of my original asking price did I get at time of close? Not taking into account any price changes. So say as the example, we list the property at $1 million, but then we close escrow at 800,000. How much of my original asking price did I get at the time of close? Anybody? Nobody knows? 80%. 800,000 from 1 million is 80%. Okay. So you got a 80% of your original asking price at 1 million. Now, percentage of last list price says how much of my current list price did I get at time of close? So that takes into account any price changes and things like that. So say that same $1 million property that closed at 800,000 was actually currently listed in the MLS for 880,000 after my price drops and things like that. How much of my list price did I get? Probably closer to what? A little over 90%. These are really two great stats to help sellers and buyers really understand your pricing strategy. So in this case, for sellers who are listing in Irvine, we see here that listing agents are getting homeowners 102% or 102.5% above their original list price, an increase by 4.5% compared to a year ago. Again, looking at it a year ago, homeowners were only getting 98.1% of their asking price, original asking price. That meant that usually a homeowner had to drop their price maybe by 2% before they got into escrow. Here, they don't have to drop anything. They're actually getting above their asking. Now, this is really great for a seller to or a buyer to understand as well. How many of you are working with buyers today that just seem to be super frustrated? They've made several offers, but as you know, they're probably all low ball offers, right? Whereby it seems like the listing agent, the seller, aren't even bothering countering them, right? Well, this is where we can look at this or show them this stat. Hey, buyer, just so you know, homeowners are getting 102% of, or 2% more than their list price. So if you're offering $100,000 or $50,000 less than asking, this is probably why you're not getting into escrow, because their homeowners are getting 2% more than their asking price. So if you really are serious about buying this home, you really need to come up in price. Anybody have those type of clients right now? Not fully understanding why their offer isn't being countered? Well, that's because it's too low. You're going to have to come in at near asking or just above asking to be even considered for your offer. Now, by the way, also with these filters near the above top, that's just looking at attached or detached. What you can also do is compare or look at properties that have multiple bedrooms, bathrooms, maybe even a price range, square footage, a lot size, if it has a pool or doesn't have a pool, property sales types. That might be a stat for you as well. But maybe one that's common is, how do bedrooms on a property compare? Well, instead of selecting one at a time, I can compare all these bedrooms together with their own little individual stats. How we do that, come over to the top of the filter, the top right corner of the filter itself, and click on this two-way arrow. And what this does is it selects all the choices in that filter. Now we see here for the median sales price, we've got no one bedroom detached units to have a price at. So we can maybe deselect that one. But detached units that are 2 bedrooms, our median is at 845, up 29%. A 3-bedroom property is at 1.213. A 4-bedroom is at 1.7, up 32%. So now what we can do is say, hey, have a marketing campaign. If you have a 2-bedroom property, this is what you're looking at as your average or your median. If you have a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, so on and so forth. Anybody have any questions so far? Anybody like this information? Two people raise their hands. Excellent. I'm glad that some of you like this information. Are any of you using this information now? Not yet. Okay. Great stuff. Some I know because I called MLS, but is new to me. Perfect. Hopefully today forward, you'll start to use this information a little bit more. Like I said, some of you, again, will look at positive, negatives about some of these numbers. I know a lot of this stuff can seem a little scary, but you know what? It's really not. Now, by the way, like as an example, that for the city, we see these sharp peaks and valleys, right? And I know a lot of times if we're going to give out this information, when people see these sharp drops and steep raises from month to month, right, that can be a little scary. This is where right above the actual number here towards the right, we've got a monthly change. So we're looking at month to month change. If we want, we can click on the down arrow here and we can start to smooth out this line and say, do a rolling 3 months. And what that means is that if I'm looking at October's numbers, I'm actually taking that number and combining it with September and August. And then when I look at September's numbers, that's with September, August, and July. If I'm looking at August, it's August, July, June, so on and so forth. So if I click on that rolling 3 months, we're going to see all of a sudden, instead of the sharp peaks and the deep valleys, we're now all of a sudden starting to smooth out that line. Again, we can put it to the rolling 6 months, which smooths out that line even more. And then we can do a 12-month comparison, which now really smooths out that line. So now we see this, instead of high 1 month, down another month, high in next month, down another month, it's now smoothed out a lot more. So when people see this particular graph, they don't freak out so badly. Now, by the way, we're also looking at a market trend going back up to 5 years. So we see here January of 2016 compared to October of 2021. So 5+ years looking at data. But if you only want a year change, we just see what's been happening for the past 12 months, or maybe the past 3 years. Now, also, when we consider handing this information out, a lot of people do not like the line graph because it's really hard to read and understand what month you're kind of looking at, right? Well, this is where we can convert it from a line graph to a bar graph. Now, the bar graph, I personally like. Why? Because 2 things. One, it gives you the actual number on the bar for that month and the year change compared for that month. So we see here that the median sales price in Irvine for a detached property is 1.355, up 20% from a year ago. Here we get to see in 2020, it was at 1.129325, up 3.8% from a year ago. And then we look over here at 2019, 1,088,000. So in just a mere 1-2 years. So if you bought your home in 2019, you've gained a value of over $300,000 in your median sales price. Now, how do we get this information out? Right? Because remember how I was saying, we need to distribute this information. Well, this is where the share button comes in. So underneath the filters and right above the graph, we have a button here called share. When we click on the share button, we can share this graph several ways. One, we can create a PDF or an email PDF. That's a static report for the particular stat. All I need to do is simply click share. Now I can copy and paste that into an email, or I can say view in the window, and this is what the stats look like. So right away, we see here that Infosparks automatically brands the information with my data. Well, where are they pulling this data from? My agent roster report. So please make sure that your agent roster information is up to date. If you don't know how to update your agent roster, very simply back in the Matrix MLS system, simply move your mouse to where it says add edit. Come down below underneath where it says listings. You have a choice here that's called roster. Under the roster section, go under quick modify agent/office ID and click in the white box here and input your user ID for the MLS. From here, you're going to hit edit. And now you can upload a photo of yourself or update your contact information. Make sure that your cell number, your direct phone number, your voicemail number, your email address is up to date. With this information up to date, and after you've submitted it, this will now allow you to have a branded, up-to-date report section for Infosparks. It will have my company logo. It will have my company data. It's going to have my cell number, my fax number, my email address, my personal website, anything that's on my roster that I can now download, print, or post. Now, another way that we can also share the stat. How many of you have your own personal website? Anybody? I think Loanne, you do for sure. But anybody else have their own personal website? Now, I have to ask, on your personal website, what's it like? What information is on your personal website? You probably have what? The about section that you talk about yourself a little bit. You might have a section to search properties. Maybe you have a couple of web pages that allow you to display listings either by your company or from your company or your personal listings on your personal website. But then you have to ask, what else does my website give? What makes my website stand out from anyone else's? Well, give statistical data. Here under the embed section, we can now embed a link for that stat on our website. But wait, currently right now, if I do the embed, I'm at the static report. That means whatever stat that I have displayed on my website on whatever web page, I now have to go back in and recreate one a month later. Now, anybody here want to do any work like that? Probably not, right? No one wants to do extra work, right? Well, instead of a static link, instead do a live link. So do a live embeddable link for your website. So that means that today what I could do is I could copy and paste this into my website or email that link to your web designer for them to put it on the page. Now that live link, even though it's showing this month's October numbers, come next month, it's going to automatically update with November's numbers. Now, by the way, this is just one stat. I can now go through, start over, close this out, and now create embeddable live links for all the different cities and areas that I display on my personal website. So ideally, what you could do with your web designer, maybe on your website, you have a page maybe for Irvine. There in the middle of the page will be all the properties that Irvine has to offer, right? My listings, my office listings, or an IDX link for them to click on to find properties. But then to the left and to the right of those listings will be all the various different stats for Irvine. Now I have another page, Lake Forest, and another page, Costa Mesa, and another page, whatever else. And I now have all these stats on all those various different cities that we're marketing in that are now given up-to-date progress. So now what have I become? Anybody? Am I just a real estate agent now? What am I now? A source of data. I am now a data source. That's right, Edward, a good source of information. Because if other agents aren't doing this and I am, now people will now come and gravitate to my webpage to look at everything, to look at the data, not just properties, but look at data about what's going on in those cities that we're marketing in, or those areas within those cities that I'm marketing in. Our possibilities are endless. Maybe we even have a page on our website that compares different cities against each other, right? Remember, we can compare these things. Right? Costa Mesa, Lake Forest. Oh, geez, Huntington Beach. So we have all this. And now we can talk about the different price comparisons or the inventory or whatever we want, and talk about these various different changes in these cities that people are wanting to move in or move out of to move to. That's right, YC. We're an information provider. We're an educator at this point. Who here signed up to be an educator? You just probably thought, oh, I just buy and sell, help people buy and sell and lease properties, right? I just have to help them with contracts. Well, guess what? It's now even more for you. And this is all free for you guys. Now, by the way, one other thing that we'll go over here in Infosparks, under these tabs, we've got a choice here called My Areas. Now, My Areas are basically mapped out drawings or map search areas that I've designated for myself. So you'll notice here that there is no stat for, say, our subdivisions or our tracts. And usually that's because they're usually highly volatile in stats. Like you might get one listing this year, but next year you got two. Now all of a sudden you had an increase of inventory by 200%, right? Kind of thing. But it's still nice to give area statistics, right? Or even sub area statistics. This is done under the My Areas. Now, how we define or create My Areas is very simple. Back over here towards the top right corner, we have next to where it says Infosparks on this dark bar, a choice that says My Areas. Under the My Areas section, what I can now do is type in a location, say, oh, I don't know, Newport Beach, California. We see here that it locates it on the map. Now, the thing I dislike is I now have to zoom in on the map. Now, as I zoom in on the map, what I can now do is outline my neighborhood. So maybe in this case, I need to outline using a polygon the neighborhood that I'm marketing in. Now, when I outline the neighborhood, I'm now going to come back over here to the top right corner, click on save, and now I'm going to name my area. So maybe in this one, it's the Sailor's Track as an example. And now when I hit save, it's going to analyze my drawing and it's going to tell me the area in which I've drawn out, how many properties or listings are in that area that we can pull data from. And now I'm just going to simply hit close. Now to pull the statistics in this area, I'm going to go back to Infosparks. Now I'm going to come back over, click on the down arrow here in the top left and select my areas. Now under my areas will be a list of all the created areas I've made. In this case, my Sailor's Track. Now I can select a stat and display the statistical data in my area. And again, I can now share it, print it, email it, just, embed it, do whatever I need to with it. Anybody like this? Couple of you, excellent. Thank you. All right. Let's see here. One last thing, Faststats. Now this is all well and good. Infosparks, I really like. Oh, Catherine asked, is there a way to save the query so we don't have to make a specific selection each time we open Infosparks, or has the query auto emailed to us? Unfortunately, it doesn't auto email anything to you, Catherine. You have to go in and pick out this information each and every time. Now, if you're doing a printout, that's what you're going to do because this data is lifetime updated. So even in, say if I came back November 15th, the data may look a little bit different for October because data does change in the MLS, but it shouldn't change by that much. As for saving the data here, the only thing that's really saved are the my areas that I can just pick and choose from my defined outlines. But then again, I have to pick out the stats. Does that make sense? You're welcome. Again, you can come in here and maybe, and I would say under the email, make it a live link for that particular stat. And then when you email this to yourself, open up the link and then save it or bookmark it on the web. Now you may have to relog back into the MLS to access it, but at least if you click on the link, it's going to show you the updated stat. That may be a way around what you're asking. You're welcome. All right. Faststats. Now Faststats, because we like to see all these stats on one page. Now we're going to be limited to certain things, but this is where Faststats can help you out. Now Faststats can be found on Orange County Realtors' website. So if we go to www.ocrealtors.org, this is a Orange County Realtors benefit. From here, we're going to move our mouse to where it says resources. A drop-down menu appears and we're going to simply come over here to where it says business tools. Under business tools, we're going to look at these little tiles down below, and one of the tiles will say OC Faststats. From here, we're going to click on read more. And now we're going to log in. Now, when we log in, our logins are for not the MLS necessarily, but for Orange County Realtors' website. So if you paid your bills online, by the way, bills are coming out in beginning of December for 2022. So if you'd like to pay your bill online, to access Faststats, it's a username and password that you use to log into Orange County's website. Now, typically your username will be your username for the MLS. Oops. But your password, depending on how long you've been a member with the board, the password, if you've been a member in recent years, say 6 years or younger, this should be your 4-digit PIN number to your super key. If you've been a member longer than say 6 or 7 years, this will be an alphanumeric password. Now you can always give the board a call and we can give you what that password is to log in to our website. But simply type in that password, that 4-digit PIN number, and then say log on. Now, here we get to see only Orange County data, but what I like here is that we can look at Orange County stats, or we can look at city stats or the areas within the city. Now, right now we're looking at the local market updates reports. So if I select Orange County, we see here that the report is going to open up as a PDF. And we see all those stats that we saw in Infosparks broken out between attached and detached, broken to all the individual numbers for all the individual stats, all nice and neatly contained on one sheet of paper. Now, right now we're looking at September's numbers because the OC Faststats usually updates these reports around between the 3rd and the 7th of the month. So we won't see October's reports until probably around October 7th, which may be next week. But we see here the month, the current year compared to the year before, and their percent change. And then we get to see year to date, meaning January through that month of the previous years. So we see here in September, the median sales price 1.101 in 2021, 915 in 2020, up 20% compared to a year ago. Now, before we dive into the other reports for the cities, I like to show you the monthly indicator report. Now, some of you may really like to show market trends. This is where the monthly indicator report is going to help you out. Now, the monthly indicator report will take and focus on Orange County numbers currently. But what's nice about this is that it's going to give you a beautiful 15-page report. In this 15-page report, when I select it, page 1 gives me nationwide and of course county data information. We get to see right on page 1 the percentage of change for median sales price of detached homes, the percentage of change of the median sales price for attached, and then of course the combined. Now that's all on page 1. So we can now create something or talk about something just from page 1. Come below to page 2, we're now going to break down and look at the detached market overview. Again, looking at all the individual stats here. Their month to month or month of this year versus the month of last year's change in their numbers. And of course, the rolling 12 months. But what I like about this is that we see here in the middle a nice little bar graph. And the bar graph goes back 2 or 3 years and shows a month-to-month change in that particular stat. So right away, we automatically get to see a trend. Now, again, we can look at the detached, we can look at the attached by page 3, but by page 4, we're now breaking down the individual stat. So we see here the September numbers for detached, attached properties, going back here in new listings, 1,492 detached properties coming on the market in Orange County versus September of 2020 of 23,000 or 2,300 properties compared to the year before at 1,900. So even 2 years ago, we are still well below properties coming on the market. And the same situation for attached. Now down below here, however, we have a line graph. Now what I love about the line graph is that we are current going back close to 20 years. So we now can show a market trend of what's happening every year. And if you notice, we've got ups and downs every year of new inventory coming on the market or new listings coming on the market. Usually what? Usually near the tail end or the beginning of the year, we're really low on listings coming on, but then usually by mid-year is when we hit our peak of new listings coming on the market. And then by the end of the year, it starts to fall off. So now we can strategize with a potential seller looking at something like this of when's a good time to list your home. Do you want to list it at where everybody else is listing it? Or do you want to list it usually in the beginning or tail end of the year when you don't have as much competition? Now, I love this type of graph because what I could use is a PDF editor of some sort. And maybe I take some of these charts and compare them side by side. Like as an example, the median sales price. We all know that the median sales price was over 1.1 million, right? Well, I know a lot of people are saying, well, we're going to go through another bubble pop and all this other stuff, and we're going to have another crash. Well, let's take a look at this. Looking at this line graph 20 years ago, back in 2003, the median sales price for a detached property was just a little over 400,000, specifically about 440,000. Then as the years went by, 2007, 2008, we saw our first peak, which was at 700 and I think $750,000. And then we had what? The recession, the crash. Now, a lot of the experts told you that 2012 was the bottom end of the market, right? But wait, remember how I was saying that Orange County is the microclimate of all real estate that affects the nation? Look at when our bottom end was. Actually, our bottom end was in 2009. But if you'll notice here that in 2009, the bottom end did not surpass or go below 2003 bottom end. As a matter of fact, it was still just above 2003. So yes, we did have a $300,000 crash in the median sales price, but it never surpassed or went below the previous bottom. As a matter of fact, it still hovered just above the previous bottom. So one can make the argument that yes, even though we may go through another crash, it will never, hopefully, go below the previous bottom. And homes will always appreciate. Then all of a sudden, over the years, we look here that we've had a steady increase of pricing. In 2013 is when we saw a vast jump, right? And recovery to where we're at today. We see here that we are well above from 2007, 2008 at $750,000 to 1.1 million. So we're even above our peak, and even our current peak or our past peak happened in mid 2021. It dropped a little bit, but then it went back up. Well, geez, why is this? Does this show as an indicator of a crash? Well, let's show how stats tie together. And we're going to look at our inventory. Inventory says something vastly different. We see here inventory back in 2003 for detached properties was over 4,000 properties on the market. Over 4,000 by just a skosh. And you were at $440,000 at the time. But then by 2007, 2008, when we were at $750,000, we had more than 12,000 properties on the MLS. Then the bubble crash. 2009 was our bottom end. Well, look at our bottom end. our bottom end of inventory was over 8,000 properties on the MLS. To be at $450,000, $460,000 for the bottom end. But look at where we're at today. We are well below or just hovering above 2,000 properties. So we see here that even though back in 2007, 2008, we had more than 12,000 properties for sale, we currently only have just over 2,000 properties for sale that are detached. So we have what? Less than a third of the active inventory than we did back in 2007, which was our highest peak in the median sales price. So one can make the argument, if you have a PDF editor, take these charts and compare them side by side and say, it's because of our low inventory that we have such high pricing today. So if people are expecting a crash, you may see a leveling out at some point, but maybe until that inventory starts to go up drastically, it's our inventory that keeps those prices at where they're at. So until something changes here, that pricing may not change, or may not change very drastically like it did in 2007, 2008. Anybody like that? Couple of you, excellent. So now with these PDF report, oh, by the way, that's looking at the monthly indicator report. Back to the local market update report, we can click on the city. Here we can view a city report, look at the same sort of thing. Here, if I have a PDF editor, I can now take out the current branding and put in my branding. Lots of ways to do that. Microsoft Word, if you have the newer version, I think from what is it, Office 360, you should be at Microsoft Word 2016, 2017, which automatically has a PDF editor built into it. If you have Adobe PDF editor, you can edit a PDF or simply convert the PDF file into a picture file and use, say, something like PowerPoint or Keynote and make it a picture, and then apply or layer your branding on top of that picture and then print it out. So there are tons of ways of branding that PDF document. And by the way, not only can we look at the city stats, but we can also look at the areas within the cities in the same kind of stat reports. Again, using PDF editors or picture editors, we could crop out certain things, combine certain reports together, and then maybe on that PowerPoint, upload my flyer for my open house and make it one page like the front, and then make a second page with all the stats, and then print it out double-sided. Now, when I hand out my flyer at an open house, I'm handing over what? Not just this information about the home, but I'm handing out neighborhood or statistical data that to people that come on by. Now, by the way, some of you may also market in other areas or other counties. Do you have access to something like Faststats in Infosparks? And the answer is yes, you do. Here back in Infosparks, there is a choice called Faststats. Here we can look at stats in all of California. We can look at Northern California stats, Central California, Southern California, and Mid-Southern. So maybe you're marketing somewhere in Southern California. Now, what I love about this is that we see here how big Orange County is compared to all the other counties in and around Orange County. If I wanted to, I can then select that county and again, pull up a quick FastStat report about that county. Again, I can print it, download it, apply my branding to it, to do what I need to do. We also have access to the monthly indicator reports. We can pick different associations in the different areas. But here again with Orange County, you've got that 15-page report here. But these other counties like, oh, I don't know, let's say Central California, we have a beautiful 15-page report about Central California stats and their median prices for single family condos, new listings, pending sales, things like this. So you have access to a plethora of data that you can very easily brand to yourself and give to a client. Are there any questions on this? Let's see. Catherine asks, is my understanding correct? These two tools, Infosparks, Faststats, are the best for market data updates to determine price to list. Best tool would be a CMA. Well, a CMA is always going to be required, in my opinion, to go over market realities for your client at a listing appointment, but statistical data will help enhance that. So Infosparks, Faststats, you want to use in conjunction with a CMA. So combined all that stuff together. So if you have a listing presentation, you're going to include stats from the county and the city, and then you're going to include also the CMA to talk about the neighborhood. Does that make sense, Catherine? Awesome. Are there any other questions? I know that sometimes the links to these webinars are emailed out. Can this be also emailed out? Good stuff to review later also. Yes, it can be emailed out and accessed from Orange County Realtors' website. So later today, you should get an email with with the recorded webinar, but heaven forbid you ever delete that email. Don't worry. Come back to Orange County Realtors' website. From here, move your mouse to where it says resources. Under resources, business tools, or I'm sorry, under education, under the education tab, click on our video library. And from here, scroll down and click on recorded webinar. And here you can access all of our recorded webinars, one of which will be today's class on using Faststats. And it'll probably replace the one that says Advanced Realtor Tools 1 using Faststats and Infosparks. I want to say this was last month's webinar, but the newest one will be always in the top right corner or left corner of the screen. And these are free for you to be able to access. Thank you, Catherine. Totally appreciate it. Well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank everybody today for attending our class. If you have any questions, please feel free to either call me or email me. My phone number is 949-586-6800. My extension is 104, or feel free to email me at Tony, Tony, at ocrealtors.org. Also, you will get a copy of today's presentation as well. That will also go over how to brand those FastStat reports with your personal branding as well. With that said, thank you all very, very much. I hope you all have a great and wonderful time. Hopefully, after today, you'll start using stats, and I would love to hear back from you just to hear how you're using this in your marketing, and if you've noticed any difference in success or any difference in response to giving out this type of data. So that's my call to action to you guys. Use the stats as of today. Try it in, on your website, maybe even do a video about it. So anybody here doing video marketing? Maybe you sit down, you pull up your Facebook Live and do a market update about the city that you have a listing in, or a city you're marketing in, and you talk a little bit about the stats and post it out there. Put it on your YouTube channel if you don't have one. If you have Gmail, go to youtube.com. You automatically have a branded channel, and upload it. And as you start to put out content, you'll notice a difference. Okay. Well, I want to again thank everybody for attending today. Are there any other questions before we leave? Thank you very much, YC. Thank you very much, Arnold. I hope you all have a great and wonderful day. With that said, thank you all very, very much. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.